courtroom was silent until Judge Rebecca slammed her gavel and said, "A man like you doesn't belong here unless you're here to mop the floors." The black man standing before her didn't even blink. He simply smiled. Exactly 7 minutes later, she was the one in handcuffs. It was a full courtroom that morning in Charleston, South Carolina. Judge Rebecca Langston, infamous for her icy demeanor and harsh rulings, sat towering in her chair like a monarch. Her reputation for being cold and cutting made people tread lightly in her courtroom. Across from her stood Marcus Langley, a composed, sharply dressed man in his late 30s, his hands calmly resting behind his back. He radiated confidence, though the judge saw none of that. All she saw was his skin. "You must be lost, Mr. Langley," Judge Langston said, tilting her head. "This courtroom doesn't entertain made-up lawsuits from people looking to stir up headlines." A few chuckles rippled from the gallery, but Marcus didn't laugh. He didn't move. Instead, he reached down, opened his briefcase, and methodically removed a sealed envelope. Marcus Langley wasn't some amateur chasing a headline. He was a Yale-educated civil rights attorney, a former federal investigator with the Department of Justice. But more importantly, he was a man on a mission. One that had begun years earlier when his younger brother Jordan was sentenced to 20 years by Judge Langston for a crime he didn't commit. Clear evidence of innocence had been ignored. Witnesses were never allowed to testify. It was personal. Since then, Marcus had left behind a lucrative law career to bring corrupt judges like Rebecca Langston to justice. And today wasn't about a lawsuit. It was about accountability. "Let me guess," the judge smirked. "You're here to sue the legal system, crying racism again?" "I'm not here for sympathy," Marcus replied calmly. "I'm here for justice." She rolled her eyes. "Typical. You people twist the law every time it suits you." The word stunned the courtroom. Audible gasps rose from the gallery. Marcus turned to the court clerk. "Is that being recorded?" he asked. The clerk nodded slowly. "Good," Marcus said, straightening his tie with a slight smile. Judge Langston leaned forward. "So, Mr. Langley, what fake case are we hearing today?" Marcus handed the sealed envelope to the bailiff. "This," he said, "is a federal warrant, signed and approved this morning." He paused. "It charges you, Judge Rebecca Langston, with obstruction of justice, judicial misconduct, and racially motivated sentencing patterns." She laughed. "Is this some kind of joke?" Marcus held up his ID. Federal Investigator, U.S. Civil Rights Division. The courtroom gasped. The same people who had chuckled earlier now sat in stunned silence. Rebecca stood up, her face drained of color. "You can't come into my courtroom like this," she shouted, her voice rising. Marcus stepped closer. "You're mistaken, Judge. This isn't your courtroom anymore." He looked at the clerk. "Bring in Agent Morales." 2 federal agents entered through the side doors. Rebecca stumbled back in disbelief. "Wait, you're serious?" The agents walked toward the bench as Marcus began reading from a prepared statement. "You've issued over 40 unjust sentences against Black and Latino defendants, often ignoring evidence, silencing appeals, and creating a courtroom hostile to fairness." Rebecca's voice cracked. "This can't be happening." Marcus didn't flinch. "This is justice. You gave my brother 15 years for something he didn't do. He served 10 before we finally cleared his name, but your time is up now." As agents placed her in handcuffs, camera flashes lit the courtroom. Reporters scrambled to the doors, recording every moment. Former defendants and their families stood, applauding as she was let out. Ashamed, speechless. Rebecca turned to Marcus. "I didn't know. I didn't mean." "You knew," he replied, eyes cold. "Every sentence, every insult, every future you destroyed." Outside the courthouse, Marcus stood on the steps, surrounded by reporters and community members. A young black boy walked up to him, eyes wide with admiration. "Are you a real hero?" the boy asked. Marcus knelt down. "No, son," he said softly. "I'm just someone who didn't stay silent." He pulled a worn photo of his brother from his jacket and whispered, "This was for you, Jordan." Facing the cameras, Marcus spoke. "To everyone watching, Never let power go unchecked. Never let hate hide behind a robe. And if someone tells you that you don't belong, prove them wrong. I'm not a judge, but today, justice was served. If this story inspired you, comment "Justice Wins" below. Share it with someone who believes change is impossible. It isn't. And if anyone tells you you're not good enough, remember, you don't need permission to fight back, just the courage to begin.